Matthew Parks, a very good morning to you. Thank you always for being available to talk with us here at Salam Media. And of course, the story of the day yesterday, and I have no doubt that it's going to be a topic of discussion for a few days yet. That is, of course, Zuma's announcement regarding this new party. On the other hand, we also have a report that suggests that you, COSATU, you are a Labour Federation and you're also an ANC alliance partner, that you guys are downplaying former President Jacob Zuma's announcement that he won't campaign or vote for the ANC in the upcoming general elections. Talk to us.
Good morning. Yeah, thanks for having us. Look, it's election season. Every 5 years, we see a proliferation of new political parties just cropping up like mushrooms. Everybody gets excited. I think many people, when they look in the mirror, they view themselves as a future president or a premier or a mayor or whatever it is. And so, yes, political parties grow like wildfire over election season. No one has heard where these parties come from, what they're about, etc. And often these parties just simply disappear after election day. We've only got about, I think, 13 parties, which is quite a lot in national parliament, for example. But on the ballot paper, we might find there's about maybe 100 or so. So this is part of it. It's a December festive season, so it is also part of the silly season, so to speak. But it's a little bit of a strange, meandering speech by the former president, because he says, he goes at length to say how he's a loyal ANC member, how he loves the ANC, he's disciplined ANC member. He goes on about how much he's committed to the ANC. Then he says he's going to vote for a party which hasn't been launched, which doesn't have any leadership. No one knows who the leaders are or the funders are. It has no members. It's got no policies, no manifesto. So he's going to vote for that party. Okay. But look, as a democracy, anybody can do what they want to do. It doesn't have to make sense. That's their right. But I think for us, it really is not much to worry about. The ANC has shed people all the time simply because it's such a large organization. And it's actually gone on from strength to strength. The ANC lost Holomisa in the late 90s. UDM was formed, got more votes in the next elections. The ANC lost Cope. Under Ramaphosa got more votes in the previous election. So we're not too much worried about it. I think for us, what the ANC needs to do is not to be distracted by theatrics of election cycles. Just focus on cleansing itself of corrupt elements. And if it offends people who have been found wanting in the State Commission inquiry into state capture, so be it. Focus on fixing ESCOM. Make sure you have electricity so all companies can be productive. Focus on fixing Transnet so that your mining, the manufacturing, agricultural sectors can take off. We can reduce unemployment. We can grow the economy. We can invest in public services. Just focus on those things. Society will rally around the ANC. The ANC shouldn't be distracted by the inevitable barking carnival that happens every election cycle. Every politician wants to throw mud at the ANC. The ANC should just focus on delivering and not be distracted by who is launching which political party which day of the week.
I hope you have some time because I really want to pick a lot of issues with you this morning. Let's look at the issue around, you touched on ESCOM and Transnet. And we know that those two state-owned entities are in a terrible mess. I mean, it's unbelievable. They're not even on their knees, they're in the ground, literally. How do you believe the ANC is going to be able to regain and resuscitate those two entities that are absolutely vital to the health of our economy and to allow us to move forward? Question number one. It's going to probably cost millions or billions of rands to get it back up onto its feet. You also mentioned the word corruption. You and I have had these type of conversations in the past, and they are very, very important. I think towards the middle of this year, the ANC was almost written off regarding the corruption issues because they were so huge, and there isn't a week or a month that goes by where we don't uncover another spanner in the works regarding corruption. Is this just not political speak because of the upcoming elections that these promises are being made by the ANC? And to date, we've hardly ever seen anyone being brought to book regarding all of their corrupt activities. So, help the country make up their mind by really calling it out for what it is.
Yeah, so that's exactly the point. The ANC, unlike the other political parties, the 100 or so, whatever they might be, is unique. It's a governing party nationally, so expectations correctly of it are much, much higher. It has to focus on fixing issues. So the ANC doesn't need to worry, for example, about having pamphlets and posters. It needs to focus on fixing the state. Ironically, the state is in a mess because of a certain former president of the republic, a chap called Jacob Zuma, because he allowed his friends to run amok. He allowed ESCOM and Transnet to be at the centers of state capture and corruption, as shown in the Zondo Commission. That's why we're in a mess today as a country. Um, AC's got to fix it. So I think we have seen some progress on the energy front. The levels of load shedding we had in January this year, for example, were devastating. 8, 10 hours a day. You can't grow an economy like that. We've seen real progress since that time. We're not out of the woods by any stretch of the imagination, but we've got some breathing space. We think with the investments, the interventions government's doing right now on the energy front and ESCOM and so on, and ramping up maintenance, bringing on board new generation capacity, is beginning to yield fruit. If we continue that front, yes, we can. We think we will make the necessary headways we need to see. We still have load shedding now and then, but not at the levels you used to have it. You might have it, for example, 2 hours in a day, not the 12 hours you used to have in a single day. Not that we should be celebrating 2 hours of load shedding at any time, but this has been an issue that's been there for better and worse. It was neglected over many, many years since 1994, but we can see progress. We're convinced that we've now stabilized it. There will be bumps in the road now and then, because the power stations are so old that some of them times they will trip. But I think we've seen some progress of bringing back on grid, 3 of the Custodial units. We should get another one back on grid this month. There's some progress on the Kubrick frontier, and that kind of builds you some breathing space. But having said that, again, a lot more work needs to be done over the next year, because the power stations are just simply extremely old, and hence they are just prone to tripping all the time. We need to see similar interventions around transit. I think for us right now, the transit is the number one crisis, because that is how the mining, the manufacturing, the agricultural sectors, huge employers, the backbones of the economy, get the goods to the markets, domestic and overseas, on time. The ports too have got huge backlogs, especially in Devonport. We need to see some progress. We don't think we've got on the transit front, for example, 2 years to move things along. We think we've got a few months. The bloodbath we had saw, the bleeding we had seen in the medium-term budget statement in November, with the 56 billion rand shortfall in the revenue collection, that is precisely because of Transnet's chaos. We fear a real bloodbath, both in terms of possible retrenchments in these sectors, and also revenue shortfall in February in the budget speech, unless we move with speed. We have begun to see some progress on getting on board additional tugboats, for example, in Durban Harbour, bringing on board additional cranes in Durban and Cape Town. I think we've seen the backlog now in Cape Town being eradicated, so to speak. That's good. We need to see much more progress quickly. Otherwise, we're going to see real bleeding in these companies. The mining industry, for example, has had to stockpile mineral exports, and they can only do that for so long, beyond which they start closing operations. So I think for us, that's going to be government's number one focus right now, in addition to other issues of other state-owned enterprises, the post office, Denel, for example. But those are smaller ones compared to the massive challenges we see at Transit and ESCOM, and the impact they have on the economy.
Matthew, I'm going to ask you to please bear with us. We'd like to go for an ad break. I want to talk about all of these smaller parties that seem to be coming on board left, right, and center. I also want to ask about Zuma's younger son, who seems to have aspirations of becoming leading the country sometime soon. I don't know if he has his eye on the ball for the 2024 elections, but we will talk about that as well. And then Roger Jardine, when, how does he fit into the big picture? All of that and much, much more right after the ad break with Matthew Parks. He, of course, is the COSATU spokesperson. And the reason we have him here this morning is Zuma's announcement suggesting that he is going to be launching a new party. And of course, the whole discussion is going to be around the upcoming elections, corruption, how we can fix the country. Is there hope for the ANC? What is the scenario looking like for the smaller parties, and much more? Please become a part of the conversation.
Listen to something fresh. Listen to Salam Media. your humanitarian broadcaster.
Shimmer, sparkle, captivate. Nothing less than a masterpiece. Droplets of gold inspires precious design. Platinum bursts with intricate freshness. And every pure diamond becomes more than just a girl's best friend. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, where timeless dreams become a reality. Come to us. We tailor-make designer gold, platinum, and diamond jewelry. Trade in or remodel your old gold. Clad yourself with classy name-branded watches. We offer insurance valuation and free zakat calculation. Visit us at 534 Ridge Road, Overport, or call 031 208 9142. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, manufacturers of fine gold and diamond jewelry.
Our brothers and sisters in Palestine are enduring unimaginable hardships. Ashraful Aid teams are on the ground, delivering crucial aid to those in need. But we can't do it alone. Palestine is suffering and they need your help. Your support can make a world of difference. Visit www.ashrafulaid.org today and donate to bring hope, relief, and healing to those who are in need.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, call now on 042 203 1400 or visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
The Turkey-Syria earthquake is among the deadliest earthquakes of the last century. Thousands have lost their lives, and large areas and cities and towns in southern Turkey and northern Syria have turned to rubble, leaving huge numbers of residents with very little or nothing at all. Al-Imdad Foundation's emergency relief team is on the ground providing life-saving aid. The people of Turkey and Syria desperately need your support. Donate online at alimdad.com or call 0861 786 243 for more information.
There's no smell that takes me back to the comfort of my childhood than the smell of black seed oil being applied by my nanny. Now I'm using Tib black seed in my own home to soothe sniffles and coughs, to help with digestion and immunity, and of course, as part of my beauty routine. After all these years, I've come to appreciate the wisdom in finding comfort and shifa in trusted treatments like Tib black seed. You can find Tib black seed at all leading pharmacies or find out more at blackseed.co.za.
Sponsor an orphan and you'll help support a vulnerable child to have the education they've always dreamed of, so they can build a brighter future. You'll be feeding a hungry stomach and a hungry mind with knowledge that will last them a lifetime. That's the power of an education. Sponsor an orphan now with Islamic Relief.
Listen to something fresh. Listen to Salam Media, your humanitarian broadcaster.
Welcome back. It is exactly 8:22. We are talking with Matthew Parks, COSATU spokesperson, and of course, this conversation is around the utterances by former President Jacob Zuma. In the press release, I see COSATU is also saying that we have a pensioner who's quite bored with his life. He's got a lot of time on his hands, but it's quite an incoherent statement. He goes on to say he's an ANC member, yet he's going to vote for a party which no one knows about. There seems to be a bit of confusion regarding the so-called party that he's going to join or start up, because Umkhonto Wesizwe have also distanced themselves from him in statements, media statements this morning. They've taken umbrage to the fact that the suggestion is that he's joining their party, or it's probably entirely new party. Isn't it also rather late in the day, Matthew, for aspirants to want to start a new party? I mean, the elections are literally around the corner.
Yeah, so look, I mean, I don't think we need to apply too much logic or common sense to it. It's a silly season. So everybody sitting under the tree is going to want to form a political party and give it some fancy name and run around the country, offering all sorts of things, promising everything under the sun to voters. And they'll disappear after elections. This one will do exactly that. That's why every election cycle we've got, 100, 200 parties. They clutter up the ballot paper. But they do a wonderful job for the printing industry, because the printing industry can go crazy printing posters and just smothering our light poles, etc. But it can't take it seriously. In fact, there's only one party which has actually ever managed to get more than 25% of the vote in the country. That's the ANC. The DA has been struggling for some time just to get above 20%. The EFF has been sitting in the low teens for some time. Then you get the smattering of small little parties which tried to get up 1% of the vote. IFP, FF+, ACDP, UDM, etc. So I think for us, we don't take it really too seriously. We could take it more seriously. This is a person who hadn't been trusted to be president of the country for 2 terms, and who hadn't failed to deliver on all these extravagant promises he's now promising the world. A little bit of humility and self-introspection on his part might have been useful, especially a little bit of modesty could have been helpful too, because the difficulties government's facing right now are precisely because of what he did during his term of office. This administration and the next administration after elections will have to spend most of the time just undoing the damage that was incurred, not by accident, but deliberately during his term of office. So I think a little bit of self-introspection could have been useful, but again, we don't think the former president and humility or principles or modesty are necessarily in the same WhatsApp group.
What's very concerning is the fact that the riots, which brought the entire country to a standstill on the Zuma, supporters, by the Zuma supporters. Of course, the thinking is that the riots in KZN was incited by the Zuma clan. His daughter was fingered out in that situation as well. It cost the country billions of rands, which could have gone to other areas that needs the money: schools, hospitals, education department, etc., etc., etc. And we've not heard about who's been brought to account for that situation. And that's really very, very frightening. And I'm kind of wondering, is Zuma making these utterances with the thought that people would rally behind him like they rallied behind him during the time of the riots? Is he kind of riding on that, the uprising, knowing that it was almost a show of support for Zuma? How do you see all of this? And the fact that his son, Dudu, has made a statement that he's going to be entering politics as well.
Yeah, look, I mean, all politicians are about themselves in most cases. I think Zuma takes it to extremes. He didn't lift a finger when the rise took place. In fact, as you're saying, his family was seen on social media to be instigating, to be stoking it, cheering it on, etc. There was a real cost in lives. Many people shouldn't have died. They died. The damage to the economy was huge, about 50 billion rand. That's just the immediate damage, not even including long-term reputational damage in terms of attracting investors, etc. And yet he shows no sense of remorse. Anybody, a politician, a leader who was serious, would have immediately appealed to supporters not to do these things, would have appealed for peace, etc. Didn't do that. He's not the first president to find himself into trouble, but Zuma took it to extremes, and simply because it's about Zuma. If he had any sense of modesty, he'll be looking at the role of other former presidents like former presidents Mbeki, Mandela, Motlanthe, etc., who've all played very constructive roles post their terms of office, have offered a wise elder statesman kind of advice to society, to the government when it's needed, but have not sought to stoke divisions, not sought to cause confusion or panic, etc. And unfortunately, he has done that, and history will judge him very harshly at the end of the day.
Yeah, sadly, I think it took its toll on the country, and sadly, he still seems to have a large support base. I guess that is why his son can make the type of utterances he makes regarding wanting to be the next president of this country. Let's look at the let's look at the issue. I hope he's not serious. I hope the country doesn't take him seriously. Matthew, let's look at the issue around all of these smaller parties that seem to spring up at this time of year, or just, when election fever starts. How are they funded? How are they funded? What is the cost to themselves? What is the cost to the taxpayers? Or are we out of the loop in this situation? And then post the elections, like you've indicated, they fold over, they disappear into thin air, and you never hear from them again. Added to that is the confusion it causes on the ballot paper. So you walk into the booth to cast your vote, and there is just so much confusion because the ballot paper is that long.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's part of democracy. So there's nothing wrong with it. People have the right to express their views. That's a good thing. South Africa's got a robust democracy. Everybody can, contest, register a party, try to go and get support, etc. And that's a good thing. You wouldn't want it otherwise. You wouldn't want people to be suppressed, disenfranchised, etc., like many other countries do. But we do need to find the right balance, because you can't have a ballot paper of a million parties. It'll be impossible. And in fact, it won't help anybody. It'll create chaos. Votes will be wasted. The logistics will be a nightmare. It just won't make sense. So there are a few thresholds, but not really many thresholds to contest. You do need to pay a deposit for each ballot you contest nationally and provincially. You do need to have a certain amount of registration signatures to register, etc. But otherwise, other than that, it's fairly open game. But normally voters are fairly mature, so normally voters are able to shift through all the nonsense and discard proliferation. But I think we do still have a bit too many political parties contesting. We've got about 14 or 13 in national parliament currently right now. And that's fine. It's fine because you have a single party with the ANC, which is a majority, so it can provide that stability you need. Because I don't think we'd want to go the scenario, for example, of let's take one of the worst examples, Israel. So let's leave aside the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. But Israel, they struggle, and Italy too, struggle to form a majority coalition, a majority party government. So you find in Israel, Italy, they have elections almost every single year. So in Israel, you have about a prime minister that's got to form a coalition of about 8 or so parties just to get a 50% plus one majority in the parliament. That's a recipe for instability. You then held to extreme political party positions. Italy, I think, since World War II had an average, and Japan as well, but it's slightly different, of having a prime minister every single year. So where exactly do you get space for government to deliver upon what society requires to be fixed, etc., if you're constantly chopping and changing? If you take it back to South Africa, Joburg, since the local elections, I think has had about, 8 mayors or something like that. Nelson Mandela Bay too. And you have real problems in these cities. It takes time for anybody to become good at the job, at least a year, 2, 3 years to become good at the job. If you have mayors who only last 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, when exactly will they be able to deliver to voters? That for us is quite scary. But look, you can't ban coalitions. I think it's about how to nudge and guide them. So we will have, for the first time, because the Constitutional Court judgment, independents contesting the elections next year. I think that's going to add a bit more confusion to the pot, but I think it's manageable. But I suspect over the next decade, as our South African democracy matures, as party allegiances shift, as the ANC also begins to shred some votes too, we're going to need to adjust electoral laws time and again, just to try to find the right balance, etc. because you don't want a scenario where you can't form majority coalition or party, etc. We do need to see effective service delivery. We do need to see stability in the political discourse. We can't afford for the chaos we've seen, for example, Nelson Mandela Bay or Johannesburg. That would be a recipe for disaster.
Okay, let's talk, before I let you go, two more issues that we do need to touch on. We've heard that Carl Niehaus has joined the EFF. Any surprises there? And how do you believe he's joining the EFF is going to make a difference to him or to the EFF?
Look, for Carl, it's a brilliant decision. I think from what you can see in the media, it appears he's got expensive lifestyle issues. He needs to feed them. So if he's able to negotiate his little whatever he does for a living, the endless blabbering he does, into a job in Parliament for 5 years into the EFF, hey, all power to him. That's wonderful, because I think we've seen him in his meltdown, a tragic meltdown over the past 2 decades on South African media, because we all held him in high respect. A former political prisoner, anti-apartheid activist, etc. He'd been a parliamentarian, an ambassador. Then he went into this very bizarre lifestyle meltdown, tragic, where he was, alleged in media reports to be involved in multiple instances of fraud, from a church to forging the deputy or the then Premier of Gauteng's signature. I think there was those bizarre things of him allegedly claiming for insurance purposes that his mother had died and fleecing friends. So, hey, if that's who the EFF wants, all power to them. I think Julius Malema himself had said that you would not want Carl Niehaus. He's would just mess up everything. But hey, we need a few clowns.
Well, let's see how it pans out. My final question then to you, as I have Dr. Imtiaz Sooliman on standby for the next interview. Let's look at the position of Roger Jardine. Has he entered the game way too late? Do you think there's still hope for him? What is the game of play here regarding Roger Jardine and his entrance into politics and his aspirations to be the next president of this country?
Again, it's election season. Everybody and the cat and the dog looks in the mirror and says, I'm the next president, and they rush to form a political party. Look, there's nothing wrong with that. As a democracy, and if he has his aspirations, good luck to him. Nothing wrong with that.
But he comes from a solid background. He comes from a solid corporate background, does he not?
No, there's nothing wrong with him per se. Nothing at all. And I'm sure you could add a good voice. I'm sure you could add good value. I think, though, he might find himself being disappointed. They're just my little views. Because it's one thing to be a successful banker. It's another thing to be a successful politician. He doesn't have a political party per se. But look, we wish him well in his journey. I think for us, we're not too much worried about that. I think for us, what's critical is the ANC must cleanse itself of corrupt elements. We must escalate the fight against corruption. We must fix Eskom and Transnet so the economy can take off, so we can reduce unemployment. We can fix public services. That's for us the critical thing. The normal election cycle, no problem. That's part of democracy. It's entertaining. It's fun. It's a little bit silly at times, but that's part of the democratic process, and it's good. There's nothing wrong with it.
Okay, I think the ANC will be in a top position if they can start holding the corrupt officials and politicians to account. Once they start naming and shaming corrupt officials and politicians, I think they'll have the entire country behind them. Hold them to account, make sure that heads roll, and then we will truly believe in them and give them our vote. But Matthew Parks, always a pleasure talking with you. Thank you indeed for your time and insights this morning. Go well and God bless.
Thank you. You too. Thanks.
8:37 News and Views on Salam Media, and next we are going to be talking with Dr. Imtiaz Sooliman, chairperson and founder of Gift of the Givers.